I'm going to be turning my attention to Heidi's heart. You can't just go to Toolstation and replace all the bolts. That's 50 years of dirt. I'm not sure about that cover though. Nope. Looking rough.
The engine was a roller.
You're going to need a good flush. Just look at all this.
Dirty and time-consuming job.
It's now time to start the more interesting stages. Paint dryer, which is also actually an engine block warmer. Really happy with the progress so far. Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes and today you join me yet again around at the garage where I'm spending some more time on my latest project, Heidi, my hearing aid beige Mk2 Escort. And in this video I'm going to be turning my attention to Heidi's heart, which I've got over here hanging on my engine hoist. This is a stock 1300 CROSSFLOW lump that came out of a Mk2 Escort, and this was given to me by a subscriber called Chris. Massive thanks again to you if you're watching, mate. Now, I'm not going to be going mad with this engine. I'm not going to be fully rebuilding it or anything like that. Not looking to do any modifications to it. I know that it runs because Chris said it runs, and also the Cougans, who Chris bought the Mk2 Escort from, they had this engine running as well. So I'm confident that it's going to somewhat run, and ultimately it's a CROSSFLOW, a very simple engine, a really cool engine to work on. So yeah, the plan is literally to clean this thing up, change a few gaskets whilst it's out of the car, and then eventually throw it in the hole. Now, I think the first thing I need to do is get this thing onto my engine stand, and then I can fold up my engine hoist and put that back in the side of the garage here where it belongs. It actually hasn't been in there for ages. And yeah, then we can start stripping this thing and cleaning it up. Now, the way I'm going to mount it to the stand, usually you would mount it here, so you'd remove the clutch and the flywheel and stuff and mount it to these, you know, mounting holes where the engine is bolted to the bell housing. But for a Pinto and a CROSSFLOW, I've got this little bracket which actually attaches to where the engine mount goes. So then you can have the engine on the stand this way and, you know, rotate it that way. And then that means that, you know, I don't need to take the flywheel off and the clutch straight away. I probably will be taking them off. I'll definitely be taking the clutch off to inspect that. Probably be replacing the rear main seal. So I probably will be taking the flywheel off. But yeah, I'm going to mount the engine to the stand on the side of it with the engine mounting point. Now, I remember years ago when I had a Pinto on this stand mounted in the way that I've just explained, and some people got in touch to say that that was the wrong way to mount it. But then certain engine builders, you know, I've seen pictures where they've got engines in their workshop mounted that way, so you know, I'm sure it will be absolutely fine. So yeah, I think the first job is going to be to remove this engine mount. Definitely going to need to remove the dynamo, and then I think I should then be able to attach this to the block and get this lump on the stand. And unfortunately, CROSSFLOWs have like old school imperial bolts, so you can't just go to Toolstation and replace all the bolts. So yeah, I think I'll be getting all these original bolts re-zinc plated, so we'll keep them safe in the bag, and we'll keep all the parts together in this green basket. Is that 50 years of dirt? Wow. Do you know what? I think I've actually changed my mind. I think I am going to mount it to the stand here if I can get this clutch and flywheel off without any trouble, because then it's going to mean that I can get to the block easier to clean it up to ultimately paint it. I think if this is on here like this, it's going to be hard to get into the nooks and crannies. Yep, Chris was right. There is loads of meat left on that. I'm not sure about that cover though. Wish I had my more powerful gun. It's at the other garage. These bolts have got 12 points on them, so you need to use a 12-point socket, not a 6-point. Nope. Nope. Persuader solves everything. Oops. This flywheel is looking rough. Feeling rough as well. I know a guy who can sort that out for me. Yeah, now we've uncovered the rear of the engine, and yeah, I will definitely be changing that seal. I suppose I may as well change the gasket behind this cover as well. Although there's no signs of any leaks, sometimes you're better off just leaving things alone. I'll make my mind up when the gasket kit comes.
I mounted the arms of the engine stand bracket to the bell housing bolt holes, and then I made sure that the bracket was central with the crank before tightening the nuts and bolts on the bracket itself. I then slid on the stand, inserted the pin, lowered the hoist, and then the engine was a roller. Once the strap was out of the way, I removed the exhaust manifold, followed by the dizzy cap and leads. Then I took off the inlet manifold and carb, followed by the other engine mount and the oil pressure switch, and then I refitted the dizzy cap, plugged the ports in the head, and then started giving the engine an initial clean with the Kent Europe brake parts cleaner, which did a great job of removing 50 years of dirt and grime.
Oh, well, this is already looking so much better. Now that I've got the majority of the grime off of it. So, I'm going to carry on stripping some more bits off it.
Next to come off was the crank pulley, followed by the adjuster bracket for the dynamo, and then I removed the very new looking water pump.
Definitely going to need a good flush through.
Next to come off of the engine was the dizzy, followed by the brand new fuel pump and the breather box, which had a screw sitting behind it. Time to plug some more holes with tape.
All right, I am fast running out of daylight. I'm actually filming this on the same day that I ended the last video because I just wanted this video to be all engine. But yeah, after a couple of hours of messing about, this engine is looking very bare and yeah, it looks like it's in pretty good shape. I've seen Zetec blocks more corroded than this, so this isn't going to take long at all to prep and get ready for paint. And I'm very much looking forward to that. I've got a whole bag down here to send to the zinc platers, and I've got a whole basket over here full of parts. I need to put this in a bag because it's a brand new part. I want to look after that. Yeah, some of the bits in here are going to need work, you know, get the flywheel skimmed, etc. And yeah, the rest of it will just be cleaned up, ready to refit. I've got all these bits of masking tape in all the holes, and that will stop the dirt getting in anywhere when I hit this block with a wire wheel on a drill. And then I'll tape up all of these gasket faces carefully before I paint it. This cover down here, if I am going to remove it, I'm going to do it after I've painted the block. This is a timing chain engine, so you know I want to keep inside here clean. So I'll mask this up when it comes to painting it, and then I can remove that afterwards. Yeah, around this side's going to be really easy to prep and paint because yeah, there's no holes to worry about apart from the exhaust ports. Anyway, I'll be back round here in a couple of days and I'll continue this video then, so I'll see you in a sec. Hello, into a new day, and unfortunately it's a bit wet and miserable. I heard a rumour that it's supposed to brighten up, but it is already quite late in the day, and I was just itching to come back round here to make a little bit more progress on Heidi's engine. So I've set myself up in my dad's garage. I've put a sheet over Heidi's bonnet and boot, and yeah, we've got enough room here to mess about with Heidi's lump. Now, since I've been round here today, I have removed a bracket from here, which will go to the zinc platers with all the other stuff, and I've removed the thermostat housing, and I wanted to show you this before I clean it. Just look at all this rubbish. Yeah, the next stage for this engine block is to hit everything with a wire brush on the drill. I'm actually gonna also do the same with the rocker cover and the sump. Just whilst they're attached to the engine, it'll make life easier. The sump is just going to get painted the same colour as the block, but the rocker cover, of course, is going to be painted here in beige. Now, in terms of the colour that I'm going to do the block and stuff, I won't reveal that yet, but it's not going to be as they would have been standard, but it is going to be how I've done the last few engines that I've painted up. So if anyone can remember that, then that'll give you a massive clue. Oh, and I think it'd be pretty cool to do the handle on this dipstick here in beige as well. But yeah, as I say, I'm just going to hit this thing with the wire brush on a drill. So let's just cue some more music and get on with it.
This is a very dirty and time-consuming job, but it's very satisfying to see what the engine looks like underneath all the surface rust, especially after you've given it a spray with the brake cleaner. I kept attacking the engine block and cylinder head with the wire wheel on the drill, and eventually I came round to the spark plug area, and I decided to remove the spark plugs so that I could get to the harder to reach areas better. With the plugs removed, I gave the ports a quick hoover, plugged the ports with tape, cleaned the areas around the ports, and then after another quick hoover, I reinstalled the spark plugs. Cleaning up this area of the cylinder head should make the paintwork look and last a lot better. With the rest of the block cleaned up, I used a sanding block to clean up the inlet, exhaust and thermostat housing gasket faces. And then I turned the engine upside down and pushed it outside so that I could clean up the sump a bit better. I dived into removing all the paint and rust with wire wheels and the DA sander, and then I removed the oil filter to attack the harder to reach areas. With the bolts removed down one side, I could clean up the flange properly. Then I reinstalled 2 of the bolts and repeated the process for the other side. I smoothed the sump with the DA sander, then flipped the engine back up the right way, and then gave it its final clean. First with the Kent brake cleaner, and then with the Kent Acrosol. Heidi's engine was now looking amazing, but I decided to treat it to some rust converter before I paint it.
Hello, into another new day, and it's another miserable one in terms of the weather. Please excuse the noise in the background, that's my mate's generator that's going, but it's now time to start the more interesting stages of making Heidi's new CROSSFLOW engine look nice. As you've already seen in this video, it has taken so much work to get this thing to this stage, and I am very happy with what I've achieved so far. Off camera today, I've done some more masking. As you can see, I've made sure that I've put masking in all of the bolt holes just to save paint getting in the threads. I've covered up this front cover. I've tried to replicate the shape of the gasket here because I want everything painted except where the gaskets go. I've done the same thing up here. The inlet and exhaust manifold flanges I've just roughly masked up because I can easily give them another sand before I fit the parts back to the engine. But yeah, this thing is now ready to start painting. Now in terms of the paint, I like to paint my engine block silver because I feel that it will show up any leaks better than painting it black. So I'm going to be painting the engine block and the sump silver, and the paint I'm using is some enamel spray paint that I actually got from WATFORD. Now it is enamel, and I know that engine paint is called enamel as well, and the reason I use that paint from WATFORD is because years ago I noticed that some really reputable engine builders were using that paint. Now who knows if they're still using that paint, who knows if this WATFORD stuff still has the same paint in the cans. You know, companies are always changing their formulas and stuff, and I was looking at some engine enamel paint in Halfords, which, you know, would have been a cheaper way to go, but I thought, do you know what, I'll stick to what I know just in case. The last thing I want is for the paint to be flaking off of the block once the engine's fitted, and yeah, it'll be a nightmare. So I decided to use the same paint that I've used in the past. It's not the cheapest way around it because you have to buy it in tiny cans for like £6.50 each. I bought 3 of them, and that paint is now heating up inside my beautiful girlfriend Kat's Focus that she likes to call Lenny. Also heating up in there is some etch primer from my friends at BODICRAFT in Watford. And don't forget, if you need any paint materials or painting equipment, you can get 10% off of everything at BODICRAFT in Watford by using my discount code MH10, and I will leave a link to BODICRAFT's website in the description. And I also picked up some more beige paint from my friends at BODICRAFT the other day so that I can crack on with painting some more bits beige very soon. Anyway, back to this engine block. Now, as I've already mentioned, I'm going to be doing the block and the sump silver, but I've decided to do something a bit different with the cylinder head. Bit of an experiment. Maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't. And yeah, you'll see all about that in a very near future video. But for now, I'm going to hit this thing with my paint dryer, which is also actually an engine block warmer. Once the block is warm, I'll etch primer everything, including the cylinder head, then use the paint dryer to dry the etch primer, and then I'll mask off the cylinder head and hit the block and the sump with the silver paint. So let's crack on with it.
With the generator fired up, I began warming up and then etch primering one side of the engine at a time. On the exhaust side, I removed the plugs and then Kat warmed the engine block up whilst I plugged the holes with some tape. And once the exhaust side of the engine was etch primed, Kat used the paint dryer to speed up the drying process, and then it was time to mask up everything above the head gasket before painting everything below the head gasket with the silver paint. I gave the engine block and the sump 2 coats of the silver and Heidi's engine was starting to look amazing. All the hours and hours of cleaning and prepping was definitely worth it. Alright, decided to remove some of the masking so we can have a better look at this thing, and it actually looks pretty decent. Paint looks like it's come out okay. Obviously we'll have to see when it dries. There was a bit over here where the paint just kept going see-through. I'd spray more on and then it goes see-through again, but that's definitely silver now, so hopefully that will remain so. But yeah, what a transformation compared to the start of this video. I've unmasked this front cover. I've got an idea of what to do with this, so I'll crack on with that in a future video. And as I say, I've got a bit of an idea in terms of the colour of the cylinder head, and I'll reveal that in a future video. The rocker cover definitely needs a bit more work before I can start painting that. That's why I didn't even bother cure rusting this or etch priming it or anything. But yeah, really happy with the progress so far. Now, before I get out of here, let me mention a couple of things about Heidi. Now, first of all, massive shout to everyone who got in touch to let me know that these weird nut things are actually called cage nuts, and I'm going to use these to fasten the bottom of the servo tower to the inner wing. There's basically squares in this bracket, and these things have got like little tabs on them, little wings on them, which, you know, clip in to those squares, and then you can feed a bolt through it because it is a nut, and then you can just put a nut on the other side. So yeah, these were literally a few quid, whereas in the past when I've seen Mk2 Escort servo bolts, yeah, they are really expensive. So massive shout to everyone who let me know about these. Also, with regards to her brake pipes on the rear axle, loads of you have been in touch to let me know that I've basically screwed the pipes into the wrong holes on the wheel cylinders, because the bleed one should be higher than the other one, so that, you know, you're bleeding the air out of it. And you're absolutely right, I just fit the pipe how the old ones were fitted, but when I get round to, you know, replacing the brake shoes and the wheel cylinders and all that, I will correct that. But yeah, massive thanks to everyone who got in touch with that bit of advice, and massive thanks to everyone who gets in touch in general with advice. I'm very lucky that, you know, loads of you guys out there that know what you're doing way more than me are always willing to set me straight. So yeah, massive thanks. Anyway, one final look at Heidi's new 1300 CROSSFLOW lump, and with that, it's time for me to get out of here, because I've been around here way longer than planned, and my beautiful girlfriend is waiting for me. Alright, well, there you go. Heidi's engine is definitely coming along nicely. I'm very happy with the progress so far. There's still plenty of work to do, but I'm really enjoying getting involved with CROSSFLOW engines again after messing around with Zetec's and ST170s for the last few years. Since that last clip, I did pass through to see my zinc plater to drop off the huge batch of bits that I want to get zinc plated that have come off of Heidi's engine. Unfortunately, he'd already left for the day, but there is a couple more bolts that are still attached to the engine that I want to add to that batch, so that's not the end of the world. I also went to see Carlo, the precision engineer, who is thankfully going to be able to save the flywheel that I took off of Heidi's engine, and he reckons he might even be able to face the clutch cover for me, which will be awesome because it means I won't have to go and buy a new clutch, seeing as the friction plate looks brand new. But yeah, this is only stage one of making Heidi's engine look nice, and I can't wait to continue and see what the ideas I've got in my head are actually going to look like, and whether I'm going to like them or not. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing next on the channel. I might start painting some more bits beige, or maybe I'll dive back into continuing fitting up Heidi's interior. I don't know. There's loads of stuff to do. So yeah, I'm going to keep busy, and I'm really enjoying sinking my teeth into this project. And I know, going by the messages that I received from you guys, you're really enjoying the videos as well. So that's all I've got for this video. As always, massive thanks to everyone who's tuned in. If you did think this video was any good, please do give it a share on your social media to help spread the word about my channel. Click subscribe if you're new. Feel free to follow me on Facebook, TikTok and Instagram. Check out my website for merchandise and car parts. Oh, quick word on the merchandise actually. Loads of people have been in touch to ask about the new clothing, because there's no hoodies hoodies or sweatshirts left of the new bits. I'm actually wearing one of the new t-shirts now, and the t-shirts are running low. They're only available in the more common sizes, but I do have plans to actually make every size available, and I might even be bringing out the t-shirts in white and grey as well as black. I've also got plans in the pipeline to have phone cases made up, and maybe even some more wall art to run alongside the PVC banners that are already available on my website. Oh, and on the banners, there was a bit of an issue with the last batch of them. I wasn't 100% happy, so I've sent them back to the manufacturer. So you guys that have ordered a banner and it hasn't arrived yet, apologies for that, but you know, I want to make the merchandise as top notch as I can, and if I'm not happy, I'd rather, you know, not send it out, and I'd rather make you guys wait and yeah, get everything right. So if you are waiting for a banner, if you prefer a refund, just drop me an email, but yeah, they are on their way. Got to send a massive thanks to my patrons, as always, for your ongoing support. All the links to everything will be in the description as usual, along with my email address for anyone who wants to contact me. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.